they are late.
No,
Tina,
see, that's
call.
here. They're not,
Yes,
we
Tina's
haven't
here.
turn it on yet.
I'm gonna fix Lori's name real quick.
Hey, fix mine too. I'm council two again.
All right, yeah, I can do that.
Make me Alfred E. Newman.
All right.
What?
Oh,
New
I gotta
word?
change my name.
Oh, you're downtown,
What's your
downtown Gina Brown.
Here, I'll fix it. Or do you want, I can do it real quick.
I can do it.
All right.
How do you do
Anybody else?
that? Thank you, Ralph.
Sure.
My daughter does that. She likes to rename everybody every time she has a Zoom meeting with somebody.
Let's see.
It's the little things in life.
I know.
I'm gonna fix your name, Mike.
There's two of the Lost Boys.
Greetings and salutations.
Hey.
And once again, it's Doug Johnson.
Doug, I'm gonna fix your Doug. It's misspelled.
Doug.
Yeah.
It's got an African name.
It'll give somebody something to talk about. It's good. All good.
Let's give them something to talk about.
So we're missing Randy and
Randy's joining.
Hey, Mayor, I haven't seen you for a while. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Doug. How are you?
Hey, Tom, I started using your COVID test.
How's it working for you?
It's working great.
Yeah, okay, good.
Sharing COVID tests now?
Yeah, I do one every day.
What?
I open a beer, I smell it, then I taste it, tastes good. Like, I guess I don't have COVID.
I'm with you now.
All right.
Yeah, I do that every morning with coffee. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
you all signed up for the state's COVID alert app that tells you if you've gotten near anybody for a long period of time that's got COVID?
No.
I am not into that at all. I just don't trust that. I'm all for COVID safety, but there's something about that just skeeves me out a little bit. So I'm opting out of that.
Well, there's apparently 30, how many people did they say?
30.
Was he?
Currently 326,500 people are signed up for it across the state.
Hmm.
I think you have to have a phone that's fancier than mine.
I didn't think you had a flip phone.
I do. It's this.
Oh, okay. I thought you
Oh, wow, it is. Honest to God.
Way to hang on, man.
What?
Way to hang on there.
Well, you know, I know how to use. All I do is make calls. So
Right.
what do I
love
care?
to still have that, but
You're
my
not alone.
job
There you
says I
go.
have a smartphone.
I think we have everyone here, Joanne. Melissa's not going to be here this evening, so this would be everyone.
Yes, we have eight out of nine.
Okay, so seeing that, you can start recording. And Lori, take it over. It's your party.
Well, here we go. Okay, so I picked the little ones to start off with. The first one I have is street lights. And last year we had dropped the millage like 0.05, but decided to keep it where it was just to make sure that the reduction in the street lighting electricity expense wasn't an anomaly. And it's still down. So I actually pulled the millage back to 0.60 mils. And then Dawn had mentioned that there was upgrades that some of the street lights needed to have done, and it would probably cost about $50,000. But given that we had not reduced the tax millage in the last couple of years, we have the money to do that. So I put that in there at $52,000, and I did use 88% for the collection of the real estate. So this one actually is the happy one. It has a reduction of millage of 0.35 mils. So it's pretty straightforward. It's just electricity for the street lights, maintenance for them, and if we do any repairs or upgrades. So this one's the easy one and the happy one.
Okay.
Moving on to liquid fuels. The allocation for next year is down a little over $17,000 from the prior year. But we haven't done a whole lot. We didn't, because of COVID, we didn't do paving. Now that we did pay for the 121,000 was, I think it was the ramps, the ADA ramps that we paid for, but we didn't purchase any equipment. So this didn't have a lot of activity. So we're carrying a bunch of money over. The guys had asked for a pickup truck last year with a plow. So they pulled that over again to this year. And otherwise, it's just kind of, they did have some paving that they're hoping to do. The 15,000 in the bridges, roads and bridges is the 15,000 we committed for the second year to the county to set money aside for the Railroad Street project.
Okay.
So I put that in again this year. Matt's list of what he had requested is the second page of that. And I put where I had put everything. He had another 75,000 for storm drains. He did say it would depend on if they had the people to do the work. They've been doing the storm drains themselves. So I did put that in there. But
So
this
that's
fund,
So Laura, that's basically rolled over from this year because we didn't spend anything. It'll be used next year. Is that what's happening?
yeah, and you can use this like 20% of the allocation each year for major equipment. And you can roll that. If you don't use it all one year, you can accumulate that money. So we're fine at the $40,000 for a pickup truck. And of course, if who knows how the winter is going to be. If the winter turns out to be a bad winter, then the pickup truck will not be able to be purchased, or something will have to go. This is always the one that we defer to how the winter is going to be if we do stuff.
Yeah, I would just
But
add,
yeah,
yes, we always look at that fund. We could back off the paving or not purchase a piece of equipment if needed to get by, if it was a very bad winter or tight year. So we always have that in the back of our minds, but the money has to be used for street related projects, either equipment, signage, road repair, that type of thing. So you're right, Joanne, it just rolls over if we don't use it, and we can accumulate it and do a bigger project in 2021, ideally.
we keep our projects usually, the number, the 99,995. If we go to 100,000, then we have to do prevailing wage. So we try to keep it under the 100,000.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah. So yeah, this money, it's highly regulated. We get audited each year on this fund, so you have to be really careful.
Well, it costs 30% more once you get into a prevailing wage project. A $100,000 project is actually a pretty large project for us. We do all the
Right.
repair work ahead of time, raising the sewer manholes or the water curb boxes, what have you, ahead of time. So it's a lot on the street crew to go out and get ready for that project, but or even water line, sewer line repairs are done ahead of time. But that's another reason why we stay around the $100,000 range. Doug, you're on mute, I think.
Okay, so if there is a water leak, this funds can be applied to that water leak for repair, Ralph? No?
No.
Yeah.
What we do with the water crew is we'll go in ahead of time. We know there's a bad area or section of piping, whether it's water or sewer, we will replace that ahead of time before paving the road.
Gotcha.
And so what you're saying, just to be absolutely clear, is the actual road pavement is paid through this fund. The underground stuff is paid through another fund.
Yes, correct.
What fund is that?
Well, if it's a water line, it would be the water fund. If it's a sewer line, it'd be the sewer fund. Those are probably the only other two funds, with one exception, back to what Joanne was saying. If we're doing storm water drainage repair, that is an eligible expense with highway aid funds. And it is underground piping and catch basins. So that is an eligible expense that could be done ahead of time. It would be done ahead of time if need be.
Ralph, what's your thoughts on the truck for 47,000? You want to carry it over, or would you recommend carrying it over, or
Well,
spending the money?
what I'd recommend is we don't do it in January. We wait till about March or April and see what kind of winter we had. If it's a mild winter or normal winter, we could probably go ahead and purchase it. We are taking a truck out of service, so they're one down. I know that's what Matt has in mind. He's putting a new truck in service, but I always like to, make sure we're kind of past the bad winter part, which would be an unknown. We don't know how bad it would be, or if it's a year where there's several big blizzards and a lot of overtime. We can easily put off a truck and get by for a while, till the following year.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Sounds like you got it pretty mapped out.
Yeah, I mean, we have a plan, and plans can change, but we're always kind of conservative in our timing. You want to get past the majority of the winter and then start doing the purchases. And it's just a good practice to do.
Let me ask you a question about line 433. It's the traffic control devices expense. We've been talking about areas that have problematic crossings, particularly thinking of the Gamble Mill pedestrian walk. If we find out that our simple signage doesn't work, we may end up having to go with this. Would that be delayed until 2022 because of this budget?
Yeah, I can take a shot at answering that. I would say yes. And it's not only just about the money, it's about the process. We would have to turn to an engineering firm and draw up get the documents ready for the permit, submit that to PennDOT, get their responses, get their approvals and all that, and then go ahead and make the purchase. So generally speaking, we probably wouldn't know till maybe the summertime when the Gamble Mill's open as to how effective signage would be. But by the time all that's done, you're probably into 2022 at that point.
Okay. So just basically, we should keep that idea on the back burner for not this budget, but for the next budget.
Yeah. Yes. And the nice thing about it is, as Lori's indicating, is if you don't spend the money, you don't lose it. It stays in the highway aid fund. You can reuse it, rename it, whatever, repurpose it, and use it the following year if you want to.
Just to bring me up to speed, Lori and Ralph, when we have the state aid, what were we going to use the reserves? What did we have what were we going to use the reserves for in 2020? And then we also in 2021.
Wait, you state aid as in highway aid funds?
Well, I'm looking at 355,020. I see that as the state aid.
Well, state aid is related to pension funds.
Well, that's what I call it, the money coming in. It's the liquid fuels funds that we get from the state.
Okay.
we get a notification every year of how much they think it's going to be in time for budget. And then the check will come in usually February or March. And that's the aid from the state that we get. So that has to do with, I think it has to do with the number or the miles of roads that we have and that kind of thing. There's some formula that the state uses. So that's not under our control at all. That's what they choose to give to us. And then as far as the use of reserves, that's just to make the fund balance as far as what we're planning on spending. So it's significantly less than what the cash is in the account, so we're fine. We don't usually overspend this. We usually have a lot of plans and they don't come to fruition. Like several years we didn't do any paving, so that money just stayed in the fund. So if we do go for, and we happen to use everything, we'll use $137,000 of our reserves, but we've never done that. We're always under budget. Something doesn't get completed.
Yeah. Occasionally we'll get word from PennDOT, just like I can say this stands in my mind, they're gonna pave Bishop Street or whatever. Every curb, corner that is not up to ADA standards has to be redone. They pay for their side of the road, and any local street that joins their state road, we pay for on that side of the curb. So Lori mentioned, we got a fairly high bill for doing that along Bishop Street. That's one example last few years that we have had to have some money for, because it's very advantageous to join in their bidding, their inspections and all that, their selection of the contractor, and just pay the bill at the end of the day is by far the most economical way to do it.
Okay. Yeah, I was just trying to track where we're at on the spreadsheets here, just to make sure I understood.
Okay.
What's the millage for this one? And I assume it's not changing?
There is no millage on that one. It's all the revenue from that comes from either the liquid fuels money we get from the state or interest.
Okay.
It's the gas tax money, as Lori indicated. It's derived by a formula and each municipality gets a share based on a formula. And, and it goes up and down depending on how much fuel is sold. That's why this year, it is going to be down, because people were at home most of the time, or a fair amount of the time.
Any other questions on it? Okay, the next one
I noticed it has been going down for the last couple of years, so it's not just COVID-19.
I'd like to say people driving electric cars, but
I was going to say,
I won't bring that up.
she didn't know that she doesn't pay any gas tax, so she.
That's what I'm saying.
They're working on a fix for that at the state level.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm pushing that through legislation as fast as I can.
So the next one is the EMS fund. This one is, we just started this a couple of years ago, and it is strictly money that we levy a tax for, that we pay some of the expenses for the EMS. This one, I didn't do any tax increase. I did decrease the tax revenue down to the 88% and just made it all work based on that. They get however much we get in, they get. So if we don't get what we're expecting to get, they don't get as much money to pay their EMS expenses. I do know that I just saw the email today that he's asking us to again go up to I think it was the 0.25 mils.
Yes.
So
Can
after
I-
I had this fund all done, he asked for more money,
I
so.
think we told him, Lori, at the meeting we had in September that that was not likely to happen because of COVID. So he's already been forewarned.
Yeah, so this one, there's absolutely no change. It just stays flat. The only difference is I pulled the real estate revenue back a little bit based on what we had talked about. So that's the only difference.
But that's a quarter of a mil or 0.2 mil, Lori?
This one, I'm pretty sure is point. But Don?
It would be about actually 0.4, about 40,000 is what they're trying to bring in. So, I mean, the total, we're at 0.2 right now, I believe, or about, $20,000 out of a mill's about 100,000. So, 0.4 total, or about a little over a 0.2 increase as to where we're at now. If we were to get,
he wants 2/5, I think, and we're at, I think, a quarter.
Yeah.
I don't have my paper right here, but I think we went from 0.2 to 0.25 last year,
Okay.
and he wants
Yeah, I just
2/5
looked
of
at,
them.
yes, pretty
I
close.
just looked it up on the sheet and it's a quarter of a mil
Yeah,
on the
and he wants
website.
2/5.
Okay.
So that's up to you. If you guys decide to change it, I can go back and change it. But as of right now, I kept it the same. Okay. The next two are the fire equipment and the fire department. I did these. They have not gone in front of the fire exec board yet. But I sat down with Gary on Friday and we went through everything and I sent him everything and he thought it looked reasonable. So the fire equipment fund is the fund that we use. It's basically just to pay for the loans on the fire equipment. And this year we did purchase the 2 trucks that Gary had requested. But most of the time it's just for payment of the loans. That's the biggest portion of it. The townships do pay, the Spring and Benner pay based on a percentage, and Marion pays a flat amount for each fund. So there's no change in this. There's no change in the loans. We don't have any of them paid off yet, so they can't purchase any new fire equipment right now. So this one just kind of stays the same. The difference that comes through is the percentages for the taxes contributions come from the county based on the assessed value. And of course, Benner and Spring both have a lot of construction going on and we don't. So their percentages keep going up and ours keep going down. Not by a ton each year, but a little bit.
Question I have, Lori, is with the planning department, kind of being depleted now, are we working with someone out there that is going to do this work for us? Are you aware?
Well, you mean get the percentages?
Yes.
Yeah, I sent an email to Liz and I got this on Friday. So she's the one that gave me the percentages. The spreadsheet that's the big one that says analysis of assessed property values, that's from her. So all I did was take her assessed values and percentages and stick them into the spreadsheet.
Which
So
spreadsheet? Which spreadsheet did you put those in?
The one that says Bellefonte Borough Fire Service Budget Breakdown.
Okay.
So it says municipalities, total assessed property values, percent, and projected budget share. That's the one that I just used her numbers and stuck them in the format that we were used to from the prior years.
Okay, so ours dropped, our percentage this year dropped a little bit under 2%. From
Yeah.
39.1 to 37.38.
Yeah, so this year, Benner actually had the increase. I think Springs was almost flatline, not quite. Benner had a good bit of an increase and we had the decrease. And I think that's been the trend. Like if you look at her spreadsheet, the trend has been that ours is going down as the townships go up. Like I said, because they have construction and development going on. So.
Good, good.
So that's that one. And then the next one is the fire department. Again, I used the same percentages from the same spreadsheet. There's no tax increase. The townships do, again, share in this. The biggest thing that Gary talked about they needed, they have not purchased hose since 2016 or 2017. So they desperately need hose. That comes in under the minor equipment for 11,260. He also mentioned their safety equipment like safety glasses, gloves, helmets, pagers, that kind of stuff. They really are in need of. So some of it, they did find some a really good deal on some pagers that they are going to purchase now. They found brand new ones online someplace that were a lot cheaper. So they purchased some of those, but everything that comes through here is basically for the fire department. They're going to switch the physicals back to us and put the safety equipment, a lot like the fire pants and the coats and stuff, they're going to keep with or send back to the fireman's relief. That's the way that they all expressed they wanted it. So, and there's a lot of maintenance on the equipment. That's like the biggest line item, $45,000 to keep up the equipment. They pay for their own insurance out of here. So.
And what are
that
the
one?
What are the millage for these two separate funds?
Pardon me?
The millage for each of these two separate funds, and did they change?
No, they didn't change. The fire equipment's 0.37 mils and the fire department's 0.74. We didn't change anything.
Okay.
It actually looks like the fire went down by about $2,000.
The fire actually did go down a little bit. Their workers' comp came in, they had it so high last year, the last couple of years, and it was just out of line. And this year when he submitted it, it came much more into line. But that right there was almost $20,000. So we capitalized on that to purchase more fire hose. And some safety equipment, and the rest of it we just kind of left filter through as a reduction, especially knowing how things are going to be or how we're being conservative next year. They just decided that they would let it the way it was and not just enjoy the reduction.
Just
So
to make sure that I'm understanding this way, the new fire chief will be getting a stipend next year, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Joanne, just so you know, that was never taken out of the budget, so that when that was brought up, as I recall, in the fire executive committee, they were concerned that when Walt left, they didn't want that void there. So that those funds were always there for the next chief, even if they were used somewhere else, but they were specified actually to be there.
Okay, so that's why it says 750 for 2020, and it goes up to 1,500 next year.
Yeah, because Gary took over in July, so he's got half a year.
Okay. And so for the, just out of curiosity, for the 2019 budget, do you know what was that in as $1,500 a year, even though we didn't spend it, or is it at zero? Or is that zero the actual expense that's shown on the sheet?
Right. We didn't have any expense for 2019. That's why it's zero. Walt never took the stipend.
But it was in it at budgeted as if he might, correct? Is that what you're saying?
Well, he
Budgeted, but
actually
he used
took
it
it out.
elsewhere.
Yeah, he took it out and used it elsewhere.
Okay,
The 2019 numbers are actual numbers.
okay.
How about the, oh, go ahead, Joanne.
I'm finished.
Okay.
That's good.
The 411, 420 dues sub membership, it goes from 600 to 2,500, 2,500, 600. Now it's back to 2,700. What's the
Yeah, I just moved an expense from another category to that one. So it's just classification. And I don't remember offhand which one I classified it differently. And so I just left it where it was and budgeted it higher and budgeted the other line lower. And I'm not seeing it offhand. But I remember thinking, oh, I didn't put that at the same place. And so I just left it where it was. So it's just a classification difference. Any other questions?
I read an article in Lock Haven Express. Maybe Randy can answer this. I don't know. One of the retired firemen who's active locally in another firefighting company showed me an article in the Lock Haven Express, and I forgot it. It's in my van. That a lot of the other fire companies received some grant money, but the Logans did not. The Undines did. Do you know anything about that, Randy? Why Logans didn't get?
I saw the same article, so I'm not sure if they did not submit, if they forgot about it, or maybe they didn't feel they qualified. I'm not sure. I mean, they should have at least applied for it, but I don't know. I haven't talked to anybody.
Is it too late now to?
I don't know. We have a Chiefs meeting, I think the end of this month, so I hope we talk about it then.
It was pretty substantial. Some of their.
It was like $25,000, I think.
Yeah, I was surprised I didn't see Logan's in there.
Yeah, I was too.
Was it related to COVID, or was this before COVID?
I don't remember which grant it was. I think it was a state grant.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Gene. I can't answer that honestly, but
Okay.
I just know that many other companies received. Logan's were like the only one that didn't get any of the money. I was sort of wondering why the Logans didn't. The Undines did. But
Maybe they're independently wealthy and we don't know about it.
You said it was an Express article, a Lock Haven Express.
you broke up, Gina.
Oh, I said you said it was a Lock Haven Express article.
And I think it was last week, but I don't remember the date.
Yeah, it was either last week or the week before.
All right. I have a link here. There.
Well, it's not gonna tell you anything except Logan's didn't get it and the unknowns did.
Yeah.
Well, she's maybe just looking to see what the funding source was. But maybe there's still time to apply.
25,000.
Yeah, I'll take a look at the article. I found it.
It's
I
the
mean,
office- It's
we
the
can
Office
move
of
on.
State Fire Commissioner, whatever that is.
Yeah, it is related to COVID. I'll take a look at this article but anyway.
It also says something about EMS being able to get some of those
Yeah, they
funds.
got some.
So did our EMS get some?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, our EMS got 15,048.
Thanks, Gina.
Yep.
Anything else on fire?
Nope.
Okay, the last one is parks. Parks, basically, they didn't really ask for anything. Tree maintenance, which is kind of a given because a lot of the trees out at the park are old, and Rodney used to call them widow makers. We needed to cut some widow makers down, so we kept that in there. A couple of weed trimmers. They're very hard on mowers and trimmers because they mow a lot of grass. So we know that there's a 3.5% raise. We know that the MMO went down. When COVID hit, we did put portable toilets at the parks. So they had a pretty big COVID-19 expense. I kept some for next year. This is a really hard budgeting year because I don't know if we're going to need them, if we're going to need them the whole season. So I kept some money in there. If we find that we're going to need them, we're just going to have to keep the budget a little fluid and try to work it because I really don't know. So the millage is the same for this year. The course pulled back to 88%. And so it's just about things that they need for maintenance on the parks.
Okay. So Lori,
the
on your
cap-
note sheet, it says that the tree maintenance is 451,540. I'm looking at the parks budget and I do not see a 451,540 listed here. Is it missing?
It's 450. I was dyslexic that day. It's 450.
Contracted services.
Yeah. The
Okay.
capital expenditures in here are the ongoing, it's the restroom upgrade, even though that's getting paid for by CDBG funds. The CDBG funds come in up at the top, reimbursed from CDBG grant, and then there's the expense at the bottom. So in talking to the fellows, they didn't feel that the restroom was going to be done this year. So I left some expense in for next year.
This is a hard question. I don't like asking it, but I'd like to know, does the YMCA pay any rental fees for using the park?
No, they don't.
They come in like in the spring of the year. I think they said it's, the 20 or 25th year that they've used the park out there. We have brought up to them in the past about expenses that we have. But I think they offered some free memberships to the staff. But that was the extent of it. So it's something, they do clean up the pavilions. I think they Rodney would have more of a better idea of how things are set up, but they try to come to a better understanding because they're out there for the summer day camp every weekday for about 8 weeks or so. So there are some additional expenses out there.
Dawn, do you know, you work pretty close with Rodney and do a lot with the park. Do you know what they do out there?
No, I think Ralph hit the nail on the head. I mean, we've worked out an agreement with them. Now that the Y's managing the pool, I think, half the day the kids are up at the swimming pool most of the time, and then they come down and they use one or two pavilions. This year they may have used more than two pavilions because of keeping the children separated. But I think in the past they're usually just in the one pavilion up on the top, the Lions Club pavilion.
I thought and I don't know if this is just something, I know we talked about charging fees, and I don't know if it affected the Y or not, because we looked at our governor's park fees and found out that except for the pavilions, we weren't charging anybody anything, and we decided to go back and look at that and look at rental fees for there. And was the Y not part of that?
No.
They wouldn't have been because they're one of the nonprofits.
Okay.
Based in the borough. I mean, that's the history, not to say something couldn't change going forward, but in the past, they were not part of any, fee structure.
Okay.
I'd like to maybe look at other ways we can minimize the budget before we consider charging the YMCA for.
I agree with you, Gina.
Yeah.
I
think
agree too.
we have a really good relationship
I
there.
agree too. That they do their share. It was a question proposed to me.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, I'll ask it.
Let me just interject while we're talking about that, just to pile on top of what everybody said, is that one of the things that I'd mentioned once before when I was meeting with some people that have park and recs departments is the YMCA basically does 70% of what a borough's park and recs department would do. So
Right.
Even though they're not part of the borough, they are serving the borough in ways that other communities pay to have it served through a park and recs department.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
Let me ask another question. There in the revenue side, 342,460. Why hasn't there ever been any revenue for the use of the ball fields?
Use of the what?
The ball fields, because I know we had a couple of for-profits this year that wanted to use the ballparks, and they should have been paying something. And according to this, there's hardly any income that has come in for the use of these. And so why aren't we putting that into the budget for next year?
That I know of, Dawn, only one tournament was held out at the ball field that we charged for. I think it was just the one. Is it because of COVID that they didn't have as many as we expected?
That's correct. I think there only ended up, Joanne, being one tournament. All the others they were canceled prior to the actual dates that they were to play. So if we received funds from one of them, then that was it.
And I think when they came in this year, they said that they were expecting to come back next year. So having a $0 for the 21 budget, I think, is out of line. I think we could just copy what we did for 2020, put 450 over there.
Well, I was cautious about that because of COVID. I didn't want to rely on revenue that we may not get because of if there's tournaments, great. I have $3,500 to be used out of reserves. If there's tournaments, that's great. That cuts that down.
Okay,
but I was hesitant to count on anything because of COVID. I just don't know if they'll err on the side of caution again. So I kept it at 0.
I would agree with Lori on this, Joanne. I think you're better off erring on the side of being cautious. You know, we don't have anything yet, so let's not put anything in there. Whatever we get will be a bonus for the parks.
okay.
Yeah, 'cause those usually shows non-budgeted items.
Say that again, Randy.
When somebody, when you get money that there wasn't anything budgeted for, doesn't that show up in that line item as non-budgeted?
Yeah, so like it would show up on our budget to actual. We would be over budget in that line item because we didn't budget anything.
Right.
So when you get that kind of stuff, it's just kind of a icing on the cake.
Yep.
So that's, I just thought we might not want to count on it and bank on having those funds when we just don't know yet.
I have a curiosity question. I don't want to change what you have for 2021, but in 2019, we had a $9,900 in lieu fee. Who and what was that from?
There was some property developed, and I don't remember the addresses of them, but part of the development of the properties was they had to give us some money because of they weren't going to put in a park. It was only a couple of lots, I think, but they came in under the in lieu fee.
Okay.
So it was kind of an anomaly.
I think it might have been those lots along North Spring Street and West Fifth Avenue in that area, I believe.
I agree.
Okay.
Anything else?
So what's the millage for this?
The millage for this is 1.15 mils. We had increased it because we've been putting the money aside for the Kepler Pool project. We agreed to contribute $28,000 per year. So I actually set that aside. I put it over into the capital project, so it's sitting there. When we have to donate it, I can pull it back out.
What year are we in, Lori? Is this the 3rd or 4th year?
This is the 3rd year, and I think we did a total of 5 years, so we'll have 2 more yet.
Yeah, the construction's going to take place next year.
Oh, is it next year?
Yes.
That's good. But we started early knowing we would have to set the money aside. So next year will be our 3rd year into it.
So the CDBG funds, or like what we've done with the bridges, and we were planning on doing the suspension bridge next year. I don't see that in here, or is that in another budget?
Joanne, the suspension bridge would be it would be a DCNR application. The only thing we would need from Borough Council in 2021 is a commitment letter. We wouldn't find out if we get the grant until the fall, so the project wouldn't actually occur until 2022.
So the money won't come out of 2021 at all, the match won't.
Correct.
So that's just something we need to keep on the radar, that will be an additional expense for the next budget.
Yes, you'll know in the fall of 2021 if we receive the grant, then we'll know we'll have to commit the funding for 2022. Some of the other.
Well, that's all I have.
Some of the other major expenses that we have between now and the end of the year that's coming out of parks, as Lori mentioned, some of the work we're doing out at the Governor's Park restroom, which was a CDBG project. Because of COVID, we ended up having to contract out some of the work, which isn't, we can't use CDBG funds for that. So we'll be using parks funds. In addition, we still have about the final $32,000 of the pedestrian walkway that will come out of this year's funding as well.
So that's 2020 funds, not 2021, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
That's all I have. That's the funds that I had ready for tonight, so.
And what you've gotten here, just FYI, it looks reasonable.
Yeah, good work. I think the hard part will be general fund, so.
Yeah, I agree.
Save it for
I
last.
just a heads up, Ralph shared with me an email that the Refuse and Recycling Authority are looking at some kind of significant increases.
Oh boy.
$4 to $5 a ton for tipping, 25 to 75 cents a month for curbside, and $5 to $15 a month for commercial and cardboard. So if they do that, that's going to be a direct pass through to our customers.
Yeah, what was the first one, Lori?
The first tipping fees. So
Yeah.
when we go to dump the garbage truck, they charge us a certain amount per ton.
Okay.
You weigh when you go in and weigh when you come out. And
Okay.
I think they're around $70 right now. And
Oh,
they're
yes.
looking at $4 to $5.
So will that come out of the refuse
Yes,
or will that come out of
Yeah.
fees?
it'll come out of the refuse fund, but you know, what Lori's saying is the customers end up paying that
Mm-hmm.
through their garbage refuse fee.
So it impact both of them, in other words.
It,
Right.
Pass through on the fee schedule.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is that we increase the fees to make that match, and then we have that in the refuse fund as an increased expense for us.
right,
Okay.
Right. So I've been working on the refuse fund, and if that will increase the fees. So they're pretty sure it's going to increase. That's a little bit of a wide range to know what they're going to do. So I guess we'll just go with what we like a number, and when they've set their budget and know, we can adjust ours accordingly. Because $5 to $15 is kind of a large range for commercial.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll probably go with the higher rates, and then if they go with lower rates, I'll adjust them back. But there's definitely going to be an increase in refuse fees, just so you know.
Ralph, can you share that email, or did you share that email? I'm sorry if you did.
I can send it to Lori, and maybe to Dawn. I can send it out to the Finance Committee or everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind having it, just to keep all my stuff organized for finance.
Sure.
Finance committee makes sense.
Sure,
Okay.
it wasn't, just so you know, it's kind of written to me, but I can pass it out to everyone.
Yeah,
No problem.
thank you.
Sure.
Ralph, did
He
that
did-
include? Ralph, did that include increases? Well, when do we know about the recycling increases, or is that included in that?
That's included when he said, or I'm sorry, Lori said curbside. That's what she meant for the
Okay.
recycling.
Okay.
And that notice will come before we approve a budget. Is that correct, Ralph?
Yes, well, we got a heads up from their director And I would anticipate probably in November, they're going to make a final decision, get it out to everybody, because they know everybody else is working on their budgets.
Okay. Once we
Yeah,
approve,
he sent it out to Ralph and a whole bunch of people, just kind of as a heads up, because he knew we were working on our budget. So he wanted to let us know so that we could prepare.
Right.
So I just wanted to pass that on to you all so that you weren't surprised, because it's going to affect our budget as well.
Yeah.
well, once we adopt our budget, we can't change it, so we need to know that before
We can
adopt it.
actually change fees. It's just taxes we can't change, but we can amend the fees if we need to. Water, sewer, refuse, those are the things we can change, but we can't change the tax rate. Once it's set, it's set.
I just sent that email out to everyone, or the,
You, John, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
You-
Let me take a couple minute break and then go into the regular meeting.
Sounds good.
All right, be right back.
Okay. Something to drink.
Sibley, stop it.
I will not.
Good evening, everyone. The October 19th, 2020 Bellefonte Borough Council meeting is called to order. Stand for Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
To the flag
to the flag of the
United
United States of America,
to the
and
republic,
to the republic for which it stands,
one
One
nation,
nation,
under God,
indivisible,
with
with liberty
and
and
justice
justice for all.
Thank you. Please do a roll call.
I'm just going to close the screen here real quick. 1 second. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Johnson,
Present.
Mr. Prendergast,
here,
Ms. Thompson,
Here.
Ms. Tosti-Vasey,
I'm here.
Ms. Walker,
I'm here.
Mr. Brackhill,
Here.
Ms. Cleaton,
Here.
Mr. Eaton,
here.
Ms. Umbowski is excused. Mayor Wilson,
Present.
thank you.
Okay, approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to accept? And
I'll make
second,
that motion.
Eaton.
Eaton,
Second, Johnson.
Any amendments to the minutes?
I have one, Joanne.
Okay,
Page 2, I guess. Last sentence in the last paragraph. Spring Street and possibly Jenkins, Jenkins. It should be Akins, Akins.
Jenkins, okay.
That's it for me.
Any other changes? Seeing none, all accept the minutes as amended, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Doesn't look like there's anything on the consent agenda, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So we're moving on. Written communications.
First one is a notice about a conflict resolution day. The Center County Commissioners, along with the Center for Alternatives in Community Justice and Centerpiece, are asking Bellefonte Borough to proclaim Thursday, October 22nd of this year as a conflict resolution day. They're just encouraging citizens to work on any conflicts that they might have by addressing the conflicts, and maybe stop avoiding trying to resolve the conflict, work towards a day free of conflict, either internal or external. Also remember that conflict is a normal part of life. Try to take an opportunity for communication, understanding, and healing. Also sit down, talk it out, share your feelings with people, and also listen and work towards a resolution if at all possible. So we just want to again remember this Thursday, October 22nd as Conflict Resolution Day.
Do we have a motion to declare October 22nd as Conflict Resolution Day?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Who's the second?
Clayton,
Clayton, okay, Prendergast and Clayton. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
aye.
Opposed? So moved.
I do have a couple more items. I just want to make a note to everyone. We did receive the email we spoke about in the work session from Mr. Scott Roth, the Executive Director of Bellefonte EMS, in regard to the annual funding contribution from the borough, asking for an increase in that contribution. That letter will also put in the next, I believe it's the November 2nd council packet. But I just wanted to acknowledge that we did receive his email today. And then lastly, received a hand-delivered copy of a petition from residents near Ardell Lane, specifically adjoining that Ardell Lane that is unopened, unordained at this time. They either live on East Curtin or East Beaver between I'm trying to think of Armour Street and Wilson Street in that area. But there's about 13 or 14 signatures asking the borough to look at this, consider keeping that open for travel. In other words, so that a private entity, private residence doesn't take it over or make it not a pass-through or thoroughfare anymore.
So that, if I understand this correctly, this would turn it from an unordained street to an ordained street. Is that correct?
I think the citizens want that to be considered, but their ultimate goal is it stays as an open thoroughfare one way or the other, that no private owner claims it or tries to take ownership of it.
So should this be referred to streets then?
I believe so.
Okay. So moved.
Thank you.
We needed more on that.
Who said thank you?
Deb did.
Okay.
Your streets chair.
Well, no, I'm not.
No,
Deb
no,
did.
I said Deb. I said Deb.
Okay. Good for you, Jenna. Keep an eye on things. Keep us. Thank you.
It's your neck of the woods, Doug.
I hand delivered the petition. I know. I know. all about it.
Do you have anything else, Ralph?
That's all I have under written communication.
Okay. Gina has something from the cakery.
Yeah, I have a written communication from the owner of the cakery, who she's moving her business to 105 North Potter Street, which is right behind Bonfato's. It's in the same building. And she's concerned about speeding issues on North Potter Street. If you're familiar with that area, cars, that's the one way on Potter Street. Cars tend to zip by there. And she's had a few close calls, and she's very concerned about her customers when she opens and they're traveling back and forth. There is right now metered parking over on the other side, and there will probably be a lot of pedestrians going from Bonfato's to the cakery and back and forth. So I'd like the streets committee to look at what could be done to mitigate speeding on that one-way stretch of North Potter Street.
So again, that'll be referred to streets.
Yeah, I have I'll send you, Debbie, I'll send you just a little write-up. I mean, I know that I included you in on an email, but I'll send you a little write-up of some suggestions for how, from the owner on how to mitigate speeding, and just any other insight. If you could keep me in the loop, maybe, since I'm with my DBI hat on, that would be great.
Absolutely.
Cool. Thank you.
We'll do that.
Yep. That's all I have.
Any other written correspondence from anybody else? Okay. So moving on to oral, we have Mike Carpenter, who is the DCED Local Government Policy Specialist with us this evening. He's here to introduce himself and tell us what he does and how we can work together. Welcome, Mike.
Good evening. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I first want to thank Mayor and Council for allowing me the opportunity to introduce myself virtually. Obviously, in these times, we're doing more things remotely, both in Harrisburg and, of course, in Bellefonte. I just wanted to explain that I've been with the department for 15 years. Previously, I've managed the lower end of the Northeast region of Pennsylvania, and through some attrition, retirements, and internal transfers, we decided to broaden some of the Northeast region. As a result, I picked up 4 counties out to Center, Snyder, Mifflin, and Juniata County. So I'm working in Center County region. I am a local government policy specialist. Prior to working for DCD, I worked 15 years in a management position in both a county and a third-class city. So I am familiar with local government processes and policies and procedures. Obviously, budgets. I was looking at your budget for 2020 earlier last week. See that you have an 11 million plus budget. My role is basically to work with local government on any one of a number of programs that we have, one of which the Borough of Bellefonte is currently engaged in. That would be the Strategic Management Planning Program. I will also want to take the opportunity to thank Ralph Stewart and Don Holderman. We had an opportunity to connect several weeks ago just to get acclimated with where you were on the STAMP grant. And I've also reached out to Delta Development and spoke with their CEO about the progress that's being made. And basically, if I had the opportunity to be there in person, obviously I prefer that method. I'm a people person. I like to engage face to face. And I know it's frowned upon in this day and age, but shake a hand and greet people. But I do, again, want to thank you all for allowing me to join you virtually this evening. Going forward, if there are any questions, I do have a background at DCD in federal programs. I worked with the CDBG program. I was actually the home program manager for 5 years, so very familiar with affordable housing. But anything related to local government, I've extended this offer to Ralph and Don as well. If we can assist, if you have questions, please do so. My contact information was provided to Ralph and to Don, and all of us local policy specialists working throughout Pennsylvania avail ourselves to both the appointed and elected officials whenever we're needed. So thank you again, and if anyone has any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer.
I have one quick question. You said
Sure.
that you're working on the STAMP program. What I know DCED does the CLG program as well. Are you involved with that, or is that somebody else?
The CLG, the Center for Local Government Program? Yeah, I also work in that arena as well. We have a broad variety of programs that we do work on. So what can I answer specific to that program?
We have a CLG program. That's
Oh,
why
okay.
I'm asking, because and we have a Main Street project. We eventually would like to have an Elm Street, but right now it's just the Main Street program.
Sure, and the Main Street program was once, a separate program. It's now joined with what's called the Keystone Opportunity Program. And again, being there as long as I have, I know the director of that particular program and some of the analysts that work in that department as well. I don't specifically work on the Main Street and/or Elm Street program, but I am familiar with them, obviously managing CDBG, home, and other programs. I've, had cross paths with that type of grant and those people that in our department that work there. But there's some of the questions that if you would have questions on, obviously you could contact me. I would get you a point person right in DCD in Harrisburg to speak with that would answer questions of that nature. And that's what we try to do with local government. Instead of going through a directory or customer service, you come to us and we'll get you to who you need to speak to. Just trying to cut out as much red tape and middle people as possible.
Great, thank you. Anybody
You're
else?
welcome.
What are the fees for this?
Pardon me?
What are the fees? What's the cost?
For what exactly, sir?
You're muted, Doug.
Your service, what are the fees?
There is no fee. I get paid by the Commonwealth through the general budget. And obviously, again, we avail ourselves to all units of local government across Pennsylvania. We also have planners engaged in our office. We do some shared municipal services, whether it's fire, police, we help with that. But we have planners that also are engaged. So we have a myriad of programs. I will send Ralph and Don some literature that we have electronically, and hopefully they can share it with you. You can look at those programs, and obviously now you know I am the point of contact once you review those, okay?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, if no other questions, I will leave you to your business, and I appreciate you cutting out some time for me this evening. I'll bid you all a good evening. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Have a good night.
you too, thank you.
Any other oral presentations or comments from the public? Okay, seeing none. Mayor Wilson, you're on.
All right, well, thank you. I think on my agenda here, actually, it wasn't supposed to be on there. I just asked to have some things printed out, but since it's on there about the Talleyrand Park Committee, we did have another meeting on October the 14th, and we welcomed Andrea Morell to the meetings.
That
Somebody's bleeding through.
Hey, Gary, could you, okay, there you go. Thank you.
There we go. And we had a meeting, and we divided up some of the responsibilities and contacts, looking at some of the different challenges we may have. Fundraising, like I said last week, we're shooting for around $300,000 is what we're shooting for. But we have a pretty substantial list, and a lot of people that are initially interested in private funding for this initiative. And so much for that, and I'll keep you posted. We are going to try to go up to Hollidaysburg. They have a performance pavilion, they call it. It's more like a band shell. We're going to try to go up and take a look at that and talk with their borough manager, get some specs on that, and maybe some cost estimates on what it cost them to build their pavilion. So we have a more concrete idea of what we may have to raise in funding for this. I would guess that some of you or most of you saw the submission that Chief Weaver put in the packet regarding some of the police activity for the last month. And I would like Sean to speak to that if he is still on. Are you there, Sean? Oh, there you are. Okay. Go ahead,
I don't
Sean.
like the way the camera makes me look, but I'm here.
I didn't see you down in the corner there, buddy.
I'm
Go ahead.
here. I'm here. Okay. First of all, did everyone get a chance to look at the police report for September? And if you did have any questions, I'm here to answer some of them if I can. I took.
I like the report. I like the report this time.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a good
I took,
report,
some of your
good improvement.
comments. Okay. Now, if you look at the back page, I wanted to go over a few things. The big list of incident, it's the incident report, and you see it starts with abandoned vehicles and it ends with victim notification. There's three of them there I have asterisks. In the first column, I have the department info marked. Now that would be whenever someone would call the 911 center and would want an officer to call back, and they have some, like maybe a tip for us, a drug intelligence, or a complaint about somebody that's driving bad or driving without a license. It's just information that they give us, and they want to remain anonymous usually. And then on the second column, I have a health and safety. It's about the fifth one down. Now there are incidents that are ones in which there's a possible safety hazard or a hazard to someone's health is at risk, such as a gas line break, a water line, kids playing too close to the roadway, electric lines down, wires, flooding concerns, debris on the roadway, tree falling over, something like of that nature. And then the last one I have marked is request for assistance. Now there's other ones in there like request for assistance, civil, that's usually a civil issue. Request for assistance, ambulance call, that's pretty self-explanatory, but the request for assistance is a catch-all phrase or a catch-all incident that catches incidents that don't fall in any of the specific categories that are above here. And that can be from a bat in your basement to a cat in a tree, anything, you know, someone might need. I had one where someone lost their car in a parking lot. You know, it's just a request for assistance that a citizen has to bag meters, possibly unlock a restroom in the park, tracking down kids for the school resource officers do, loud music. So that's the bulk of a lot of our incidents are that they're just things that happen. There's no real incident for it that matches the, you know, like an animal complaint, no category for it. So they just lump it into a request for assistance. So I just wanted to, and if there's any questions on any of the other ones there, feel free to email me and I can go into more detail with that, like a person stop. That's like a car stop, but the person, you know, walking the street, looks suspicious. Maybe at 3 o'clock in the morning, they shouldn't be in that area. The officer will get out and stop them and talk to them. So if there's any questions, I'm here to answer them. If not,
Sean, did you want to touch on the pedestrian traffic?
That was put out later today or earlier this morning. I just completed the report this morning. I was out of the office most of the week last week. Did everybody get a chance to look at that? If not, or if so, if you have any questions, I'm here for that. Well, the biggest issue I had with it was that we were, you know, with working kind of light staff the week we did this. It was very hard to designate certain times to be down in the Diamond area, but the total hours were 16.5 hours that we spent down there. For the night shift, as soon as they get on duty, they pretty much had to get down there because there's only about an hour and a half, 2 hours that there's heavy pedestrian traffic when the night shift comes on duty. And that's also another busy time for other incidents as well. But I did about 3 hours of that, and I had about 7 or 8 citizen contacts myself, and got a lot of positive feedback from the people that we did stop. Just weren't paying attention, didn't realize, you know, they were distracted or didn't realize there was a pedestrian, or they didn't realize what the law was. And we made 31 positive contacts, I feel, with the motoring public and the walking public. So hopefully, you know, we got some education out there. You know, a lot of it, most of it was educating, and you know, just having positive citizen contacts and not persecuting, but, you know, but still doing the enforcement at the same time. And hopefully we, you know, get to do a much larger scale one in the future. Most will head into the spring with that attitude that, you know, we're still going to be downtown and being very vigilant about the foot and pedestrian traffic and making sure everyone's safe.
All right, thank you, Sean. I have nothing further other than to wish Councilwoman Melissa Humboski happy birthday.
Yes. Yes, I was going to do the same thing.
Aw,
Yeah, I beat you to it.
birthday.
Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
Any questions for the mayor or for the chief?
I'd just like to thank the chief for getting on the pedestrian issues quickly. I think that was, it looks like it was pretty successful in whether it's education or just talking to people, or, you know, I think it's a good thing, a good tool, positive tool.
Right. If you look at the numbers, we stopped just as many foot travelers as we did vehicle travelers. So
one other quick thing, I just want to put a shout out, thank the people that responded to the gas leak earlier this week. It was pretty significant leak, and I guess Columbia Gas came in. Was that correct or not, Ralph?
That is correct.
And our police were out pretty quickly shutting down the roads, and all the phone calls that the staff made, and or emails and text messages that they put out. I did see a gap, and I've heard some feedback because a lot of people don't have landlines now. I don't know how we go about with the county emergency contact information to get cell phone numbers out.
There's another way to do that, Mayor, if I might add.
Go ahead.
I was talking with the EMA director, Jeff Warren, and there's the same system that the Amber Alert is on. Had that been any more serious, that could have gone over that system where it doesn't matter if you subscribe to it or not. It'll, you get an Amber Alert no matter if your phone's on or off. That's another avenue to do that. And I'd like to add that the Sheriff's Department, Spring Township Police Department, and the Center County Probation Department, actually, and the Fire Department, were all instrumental in evacuating downtown.
Very good. Thank you.
Related to that, the call came in on my phone, my landline, and because the way the caller ID presented itself, nobody in our house answered it. It wasn't until 8 hours later that we realized that there was an emergency call that came in. I think maybe the county needs to be advised to try to troubleshoot this, to make sure that something like that doesn't happen again in the future, whether it's using this Amber Alert thing that Sean is talking about or not, because that is a critical safety issue.
We have offered to do what they call an after action review with the county. It's actually the borough's incident, and they assist us because it's in our municipality. They all assisted us, but we would like to have an opportunity to sit down with everyone and work through, what went right, what went wrong, and so on, and see what we can do to improve things.
I think that would be a very good idea. Deb, go ahead.
I just wanted to throw this out here. I was home at the time that this happened. I saw flashing lights across the street from me, and I was aware that there was something going on in the neighborhood, but I didn't know what. And it wasn't, and I got no phone call, and it was not until a fireman was knocking on my door telling me to evacuate that I really knew what was going on. When I see police activity in the neighborhood, I don't, go and looky-loo and butt in and try and see what's going on. Just stay away from it. Some of my neighbors told me that they did receive phone calls, others did not. So I'm not sure how this whole system is all tied together. But it really was not until I was told to evacuate that I was aware that there was something significant going on.
What?
Go ahead, Doug.
Deb, are you signed up with the borough to get those calls?
I get all the calls about refuse pickup and closed offices and everything else. But this time there was absolutely nothing.
Well, another thing
let me just clarify. Bellefonte Borough did not make the robocall.
The gas company did.
Yeah,
the gas company.
I think it was
actually.
But would the gas company have called only gas customers and not, well, I'm not a gas customer, so.
I don't know that. Yeah.
I believe that just from the feedback I've heard since the incident, that seems to be the case. They called their own customers saying, evacuate or whatever, but and that created more confusion because we heard there was a call, not knowing, who got the call or anything. So there's a lot to review and look at and make some improvements.
Yeah, there's kind of a gap here.
Well, maybe, when an incident occurs on campus, you get a text message of things that are happening. So maybe something the borough might want to look into. It's a text message alert system. It's sort of like the Amber Alert, but not as drastic. Might want to talk to somebody at the university.
So Ralph, can you, Mike wants to say something.
Just want to, isn't there, Isn't there something that can be signed up for on the borough website?
Yes, we do that now. We have text availability, email availability. We just need numbers. A lot of times we don't get the numbers. So that's the only reason we can't go get your number, and that you have to give it to us.
Right, and I've been telling people that there's a space on the website, so I just wanted to make sure I wasn't lying to them.
No, it should.
Randy?
Yeah, I want to come at this another way. I know it's great that everybody did their job and everything worked out fine. I guess my concern is, why did it happen? I mean, the 811 call was made, but the gas line didn't show up. And you know, aren't there maps or something that are supposed to show where there's any potential lines? Or you know, Columbia puts the lines in, don't they?
Oh, well, let me answer that for everybody. Each utility is responsible for marking their own lines. Nobody shares maps. Our maps, you could say, maybe are public, but the gas companies will not share their maps. So we do not have a copy. We never would have a copy. They are responsible for marking their own lines. If they did not mark it, it's something between them on their side. And that's what happened. The line was not marked.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I understand this was the second occurrence with that line going up that street. I don't know how long ago the other one was, but that's what I got from.
Let me clarify again. When they do mark, we have to be very specific on where we are digging. And we mark, you know, they mark the start and the stop and the width and the depth. All that has to be marked. We don't go outside of our lines. So it doesn't matter what happens somewhere else. You know, we have to go with marked drawings of where we're going to be digging. And we have to have a reasonable assurance that all the lines underground have been marked. You know, if they haven't, accidents happen.
Right, or you have to be more due diligence while you're digging, keeping an eye on it, because that's all you
Well,
can.
I have to agree with Mr. Stewart. The crews followed the markings that were on the pavement.
I'm not challenging what the crews did. I'm just saying that it would make sense that either, you know, if the 811 call is ineffective the way that seemed to be because they're not picking up the line, this seems like there's something missing there.
Yeah, they just never came out.
Ralph, can you set up a meeting with the county EMS, with utility companies, with us to do this post-evaluation? Because I think this is serious enough that we need to make sure that something like this doesn't happen again. And we all have had different experience surrounding this one incident, whether it's not getting a phone call or having the phone numbers that don't quite show up, or as Randy is saying, lines not marked. We need to know all those different kinds of things so we can troubleshoot and make sure we can fix those problems for the future.
I'm happy to set that up. You know, depending on the number of people and all that, it may be virtual, but we'll set it up.
Thank you.
Sure.
And thank you.
I think that's all of the mayor's report.
Okay. Well, that was a good
quick.
conversation, Tom. Thank you. Moving on to me, I have two items. One is listed as Preservation PA Award. Preservation PA held their annual meeting virtually last week. On October, it was over a 4-day period. On October 14th, they had their statewide awards program. Among the recipients was Center County government for the refurbishment and repairs of the Soldiers and Sailors Memorial and the Andrew Curtin statue. They also cleaned and repaired the clock tower on the cupola of the courthouse, which is what you were seeing last week with the scaffolding on the courthouse. They were doing the final painting to finish off that project. That part, though, wasn't mentioned in the award. For those that are interested, they did work with HARB to make this award-winning project happen. I'd like to congratulate Sue Hannigan, the county commissioners, and the county planning office for making this happen. related to this, at the conference, there were several other sessions related to historic preservation and diversity, as well as grant fundings available to multiple different state agencies, PennDOT, DCED, Conservation Natural Resources, and there was one other and I'm blocking on. I will be receiving copies of the presentations along with the resources that the presenters are providing sometime this week, and I can share them with any interested parties. I've already talked to Doug about the PennDOT programs. They look rather interesting. It may not help directly the borough, but it will definitely help with the TIP program and some other projects outside the borough. Questions on that one? Okay. The other one that I was asked to present is the outdoor gathering guideline changes from the Wolf administration. On October 9th, the outdoor gathering guidelines were changed to now be based on square footage of the area being used rather than 250 people per event. And this square footage is to be used when there are no fire marshal designation as to the maximum number of people allowed. So here in Bellefonte, except for the stadium at Bellefonte High School, which does, I believe, have a capacity allowance, this new rule applies. Instead of the maximum of 250 people per event, the new policy is a maximum of 67 people for every 1,000 square feet based on the square footage of the area to be used. That number is then multiplied by the maximum percentage occupancy based on the calculated number. And the percentage decreases as the maximum occupancy population increases. There was a one-page statement from the governor's office that gives you these varying differences that Ralph has, that if anyone in the public wants to see them. And he has the specific limits for our park and some street areas commonly used for events in town. And you can contact Ralph if you're planning an event and need to know what the limits are for the area of town you're interested in holding your event. And I would like, if it's possible, to put this information, whether it's just this statement from the governor or something more specifically with what, how many people we could have in the parks, on our COVID-19 section of the website. Questions?
Joanne, does this affect anything we've discussed for the Victorian
Yes.
Christmas program?
Yes, this came in right after we did the Victorian Christmas event. We notified them of the change, and Ralph has been working with them to let them know what the difference is in sizes. It also will affect the trick or trot, but that group wouldn't really have much, because the way they've designed that, they would be way under it anyway. So we're not really worried about any changes to that one, other than that they're not going to be able to use the pedestrian bridge over the railway on October 31st because it's not going to be ready.
Just to answer or get back to Randy, Victorian Christmas is still looking at West Howard and North Allegheny from Howard to Lynn for their setup for the Arts and Crafts Fair. And my understanding is they only have, 30 or 40 vendors. They have plenty of room. So nothing has changed that I'm aware of. That's where they're looking at locating everybody.
Thanks.
Sure.
Hey, Ralph and Joanne, DBI has conditional approval from the borough to have events for Friday in the Font. I think that was passed in June or July.
Yeah.
And we were planning on having something at the park for this month. So should I?
Yeah,
Ralph?
contact Ralph and he'll tell you what the maximum capacity is because he's calculating that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk to you about it, Gina.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Ralph.
I don't think it needs to come back to the council for reapproval because the way we passed those motions was conditioned on the COVID guidelines. Since the guidelines have changed, we'll just
Work
move-
with
work
each
with what-
other on, yeah, that would be great. Yeah, that'll be October 29th, whatever the Friday is.
Thirty, I think.
30th.
The 30th. I should have that date memorized. Yeah, I'll reach out to you, Ralph. Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, move on to building and property. Anne?
The Raceway wall work near the Gamble Mill was completed.
Yay.
I'm not sure of the details on that. It looks great. I mean, I see it every day.
So basically what that means for the public is that there has been a cement barrier put between the Raceway and the Gamble Mill, so that all the water from the Raceway runs down into the pipe rather than under the mill now.
I just add, the new owners wanted something permanent in place to divert the water. There was a barrier there, but it was just plyboard, very kind of flimsy, and water did get through. Of course, this day and age, nobody wants mold issues or anything like that. So they did not want any water going underneath the building. So they, at the sales agreement, they asked if we could assist with that project. So we were fulfilling our part of the agreement, and by installing this permanent wall that will permanently divert the water from the mill race around the Gamble Mill. So that's a little bit about the background of what we're doing.
Ralph, what goes behind that wall, or is that just an open space that?
It's yet to be determined, but I believe it'll be filled in. It could be a part of a patio or something to that effect. But I anticipate it being filled in with stone or something like that, and then maybe something placed on top of it.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Any other questions? Anything else, Anne?
That's all I have.
Okay, moving on to finance and government performance.
All right. In your packet is the September 2020 current versus prior, budget versus actual summary, the budget versus actual detailed, the voucher summary, and the treasurer's report. Those are all just your usual finance documents. Hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at those. Are there any questions for me that I can answer or take back to Lori?
Yeah, I have one.
Okay.
Under the budget versus actual summary, I looked at that, and then in the detail, there was one line in the summary was the KD planning and zoning expenses. It was 514% of the 2020 budget. And the question I had was, does this have to do with unemployment costs that I saw in the detailed cost? And if so, will they be reimbursed with the CARES COVID-19 funds coming to the borough? Or is this with the wayfinding grant that we received in 2019, but the expenses occurred in 2020, so they're not going to match up?
Okay. I'll take that back. Ralph and Dawn, do you guys have any insight?
I'm not sure. Obviously, the office has been empty for the whole year, so I don't know how it could have any expenses, but we're happy to look into it.
Yeah, it just seemed to be way out of whack, and I was trying to figure out why. And those were the two largest expenses I saw in the detailed.
Okay. Thanks. Any other questions? Okay. We had a finance committee on the 13th of October. And we just chatted about the budget. So we went through and looked at some of the preliminary discussions about the police budget, the authority budget, general budget, public works. We talked a little bit about some of the retirements. In general, what the finance committee and Ralph and Don and Lori, what we've talked about is being conservative with the budget and really trying to keep the costs minimal and look at the budget as a with the 88% tax revenue. So the thing that came out of the meeting that is also on the agenda that we will need to vote on is that the finance committee is recommending to add a line item to the real estate tax bill that will show the total mills for police services. And we're hoping that that'll just help a little bit more for the public to understand the budget. One of my things is, as the chair, is just really allowing the public to have a little bit more knowledge about the budget and what it looks like, how it works. I know that it's available on the website, but I really would like it to have more eyes.
So you're making a motion to approve the separation of police services from the general budget for purpose of a transparency?
Yes.
Okay. So Gina has made that motion. Who's seconding it?
I'll second that, Eaton.
Okay. Thompson and Eaton. Discussion? Yes, Randy, go ahead.
Would it be also helpful to show that on all the general funds, all the departments, instead of just the police, streets, things like that?
First of all, there's other areas or subcategories of the general fund. We're only talking about real estate tax bills. We're not talking about water, sewer, utilities. And I did check with the county. We have limited spacing and we could easily add one line. We get beyond that, I would need to go back and check to see if we can add however many lines council wants. I need to go back and check, see if that's possible.
Reduce the font, make them get a magnifying glass out to read it.
And you were going to say something?
No.
Okay.
John Eaton?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Randy, I like that would be my preference, that we could itemize all of them, just like we do on our fee schedule. And I would say we're sort of at the mercy of what the county says that we can print on the real estate bill. But I agree with where you're going. That's how I'd like to see it.
Why not just put an insert with the tax bill?
That means we have to pay more for the tax for them to process it.
Well, would we have to pay more to have all the forms reprinted anyway?
No, let me clarify. We go in with the county and we share the cost of sending out the tax bill in January with the county. And we fill out a form once council approves the budget and changes or even keeps the tax amounts the same. We complete the form and send it to the county assessment office so they know what to put on the tax bills. There is where we will put on, if you want an additional line item or something broken out, there's at least room to break out one line item. I need to go back and ask because the committee recommended just one line item. I need to go back and ask if you want more line items, but because there's limited spacing on the tax bill.
i.e.
Go ahead,
the font
Randy.
size.
So it's not as simple as just making a list and that on a separate piece of paper, not tied to the budget at all, but just like a separate page. It doesn't have to go to the county. It's just information for residents.
The committee talked about that. The budget's broken out now by subcategories under the general fund, policing, streets, what have you. You know, we talked about trying to improve the message with, you know, pie charts or what have you. We're more than willing to do that, but the committee is recommending to at least add a line item to the tax bill.
Randy, the reason we wanted to do this was that there's some concern about that part of the general budget is our largest item in the general budget. And we wanted the public to see how much we're spending on police services and how much we're spending for what they consider to be everything else. Because in our case, police services is something unique to some of the municipalities in the county. Many of them don't have that, but they do have all of the other expenses. By pulling that one out, they can make a comparison as to what the other townships and boroughs are doing, and then what we are additionally providing as a service to the community. And see how much it costs. That was our thinking on this.
I personally don't see the need for it, but
I mean, you look at the budget and it tells you how much it costs you and you just subtract it from the main budget. I'm not sure how that's going to help.
Yeah, I don't know how many residents go to find the budget, to look at the budget, to see how much we're spending on each department. So.
But they do see their tax bill.
But they do see their tax bill.
well,
They may
the
want
budget
to
is
know.
available and it's not hidden.
I
call the
understand that the
question.
budget's available. But
I
they,
call the question, Madam President.
Is there any opposition to calling the question? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of the motion to add a line item to the real estate tax bill, the total millage for police services, please say aye.
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 All opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so we need a roll call, Ralph.
Alrighty, Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Prendergast,
Aye.
Ms. Thompson,
yes,
Ms. Tosti Vasey,
Yes,
Ms. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Brackbill,
No.
Ms. Cleaton,
Yes.
Mr. Eaton.
Yes.
There's 7 yeses and 1 no.
okay. So we let the minutes show that it passed with 1 nay, and that was Randy Brackbill. Okay, moving on, continue, Gina.
all right. And then finally, we, I believe we have it scheduled, or we're consider scheduling a special work session to review the strategic management report that the council received last week. And that is scheduled for next Monday, October 26th at 6:30. We just felt like it was too much to cram that report into the work session tonight, and then we didn't want to wait until we have budget talks to do. So we're scheduling a special work session for that.
So I need a motion to approve and advertise this special work session on Monday, October 26th.
So move, Brackbill.
Second, Prendergast.
Brackbill and Prendergast.
For
Discussion?
I'm sorry. I did have a question. Did you want us to try to have the consultant available?
Yes,
That was the purpose. man.
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure that, you know, they're available, but we'll go to work on that.
I have a question.
Yes.
I would imagine this is pretty extensive, and I'm just asking, are we going to get a chance to review this before the meeting or not? Or is that just
You're
not
asked to be reviewed
viable?
this week. You're asked to review it this week before the meeting, so we can have the discussion next week.
Has it been sent out?
Yes.
Yeah.
In the,
In
in
your
the email.
packet.
At
Oh,
least,
it's in,
at least twice.
It's about 180 pages total.
oh my God. All right.
Yeah, I
I guess
read
I
it
better
last
start.
night.
Yeah. What's it
Um,
under,
It's
Ralph?
fun.
We'll
Did
we'll
Ralph-
forward it. I'll forward it to you, Tom.
All right, I don't know
Who said
sent
it's
it out, but
fun?
I
It's
don't
in
know
the,
if I saw it.
Tom, it's in the finance part, in between the
Okay.
finance ones.
Uh-oh. Something happened to my Zoom.
Uh-oh.
You're still here. We see you.
All right, I'm gonna have to log back in.
We
Okay.
see, Tom, we see ya.
Tom,
Yeah.
Go down to the bottom and click that little blue box and you'll be back on.
See a blue box, but I'll get it.
Any other discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the special work session, say aye.
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 All opposed? So moved. Anything else, Gina?
Let me take a look. We've got that agenda. No, are there any questions for me for finance? All right. No, I'm good. Thank you, Joanne.
Okay. Moving on to Parks and Recreation, Melissa isn't here, so Ralph and Don, do you want to do this part?
Just that we're trying to close in the new restroom structure out in Governor's Park. We have a contractor finishing the block work right now. And they're measuring, trying to get materials for getting the roof constructed and then the building enclosed before winter hits. I did hear, some of the materials may be hard to get just with the amount of construction going on. But that's our goal, is get the building closed in. And then as time permits, our crews will finish out the inside, plumbing, what have you, electrical work over the winter months, and then try to have the building ready to go in the spring when the park opens. I'll leave Dawn discuss the 2021 DCNR grant on the suspension bridge.
Yeah, I just want to let the other committee members know that we had spoke about this the other night. We're going to try to set up a meeting to discuss. Last year, we had talked about different grant opportunities, and we want to take advantage of this suspension bridge and get this updated before it goes too much further. And then just Joanne mentioned earlier about an update on the pedestrian bridge walkway, the railing and vinyl fencing isn't going to be delivered until November 14th. So I would kind of anticipate a Thanksgiving approximate timeframe for completion of the pedestrian walkway.
Can we do a ribbon cutting once it's done?
We were going to bring that up, Joanne. We think that's a good idea. We should do that.
Okay.
I have one more thing. You see, on the agenda, it talks about the DCNR grant 2021. Earlier, the mayor talked about the band shell project. We are under the understanding that we can have two projects in the same park. So if things fall into place and we apply for funding to match local monies raised for the band shell and do the suspension bridge, it would not be a problem, just so everybody's aware of that.
It'll work out well.
Yes,
Sounds good.
yes.
I had two other things when I looked over the minutes from the last meeting. We were going, and one of these I think we need to include in the next committee meeting, and is to talking with the conservation district on how to preserve the peninsula from erosion in Krause Park.
That's being looked into.
Okay, and the other one was a status on how we might remove the invasive trees of heaven from the parks, as they are a lightning rod for the Japanese lanternfly, and the Penn State Cooperative Extension Service is heading up this program. So I don't know if we need to get the information from them and then include that in the meeting or what. But that needs to be followed up with as well.
We can do that and then, talk to Melissa about availability for a committee meeting.
Okay.
I had a question for Parks.
Go ahead.
The lights that DBI had put up, apparently they're currently not plugged in, or do you guys know anything about that?
Well, we changed them per the request of a number of people, Gina. We just put them back on the timer so that
Okay.
they're on the regular timer that the park lights are on now. So they should come on at nighttime when the lights go on and go off at dusk, rather than being on all day.
Right. Do you
Hey,
know?
Donnie?
What?
Go ahead.
Well, I guess they weren't on this weekend as of, I think, at least Friday and Saturday. So was that, and it was at night. So was that done post that?
I thought Matt changed it around last week, Gina. I'll have to check with him tomorrow. If they weren't on at night, I don't know what their reasoning would have been, but
Okay.
I know the one issue that he was concerned about, that if you didn't keep them on all the time, that if someone came in, like if someone comes in to use the park and wants electricity, if they aren't on, then people aren't going to have power. And we just said to him, well, if someone comes in and needs power, we'll turn them on. But I'll have to check. If they weren't on the weekend, I wasn't aware of that. We'll have to find out what the problem was. But I was unaware of that.
Okay.
Well, starting next week, we go on daylight savings time. So that if they're going to come on at dusk, that timer's going to need to be changed. Move it up to 5 o'clock.
Yeah, Craig Harold, the borough's electrician, does go around and change the timers every year at this time. So he'll get to that. But I'll get back to you on that tomorrow, Gina, after I talk to Matt.
Okay, that would be great.
Just out of curiosity, wouldn't it just be easier to put it on a light sensitive timer, a light sensitive switch?
The lights are already on a timer, so they were just circumventing the timer on the park lights that they're plugged into.
But apparently it's not a photosensitive switch.
No.
It's just time.
It's a timer, yes.
Wouldn't it make more sense to just put it on a photo sensor?
Well, we talked about that. We talked about that, Mike. We just didn't do it. We did it the other way.
Okay.
I admittedly, I actually haven't been down to the park recently at night, so I don't know, but I have friends and volunteers that, walk around at night, and they last weekend, Friday, I think Friday and Saturday, or Thursday, Friday and Saturday, they just, for whatever reason, they weren't on at night in the trees and in the gazebo. And
yeah, I drove by last night. They were on in the gazebo last night, Gina.
But not in the trees.
I don't recall seeing
Yeah.
that. I saw in the
They
gazebo
weren't.
because there were some people in there.
Okay.
They weren't on Saturday. I was there.
They were not on Saturday?
Yeah.
Okay. In all three locations, the trees, gazebo, and pergola, or just?
We'll check.
Okay. Thank you, Dawn.
Anything else for Parks and Rec? Thanks. Okay, moving on, John, Human Resources.
Okay, I'm going to leave Ralph handle the wastewater treatment plant opening advert.
I'll just quickly say we have our wastewater treatment plant superintendent retiring, and we have posted a vacancy position or advertised a vacancy position. And the applications are due by November 6th. If anyone has questions, probably the easiest is to go to our website, bellefonte.net, and get an application, or give us a call, 355-1501. Happy to talk to you or anyone about what the background is and what the requirements are and all the details.
Okay. Thank you, Ralph.
Sure.
Okay. The second item we had up, or we have up, is we're considering a motion. We'd like to have a motion from council to approve the HR committee and staff members set up interviews with two law firms that are being considered for police policy review. This is basically so that we can understand what our liability issues are within the borough for both council and also for the police department. And in doing so, we need to provide a copy of our current the current table of contents from our existing standard operating procedure to the law firms so that they can understand where they're starting from. So of course, this is going to require the police chief being part of the committee too. So, okay, Joanne?
Yeah, yes, that was going on. I clarified that Chief Weaver would be included in this meeting.
Yeah.
We need a second to the motion.
I'll second it, I guess.
Okay, Prendergast.
Get things moving.
Discussion?
I assume that the policy was reviewed at least once prior.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
That's all part of the process, Mike, of how frequently council will have to review the policy to make sure that we are covering our exposure relative to liability.
Plus, we're also doing best practices.
Yeah, exactly. It's another way of saying it. So.
Any other questions or discussion?
Yeah, I may have to abstain on this depending on who the law firms are.
They're not local.
Okay,
They're not your-
excellent, thank you.
These are specialists in law.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none? All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved.
Okay. We conducted a committee, well, we need to conduct a committee meeting to discuss the planning, zoning, and HARB position in the future, and then also succession planning for the borough management. You know, this would be our basically whoever will replace Dawn in the far distant future. So there'll be a meeting notice coming out. The council manager review process is underway, and you're all diligently working on your reviews for the two senior managers, which you will complete and hand to Council President Tostavesi prior to our second meeting in November. And finally, on the 13th of October, we conducted a virtual meeting with our healthcare insurance cooperative, Benecon representative. They provided us an overview of the program and gave us the estimate of what our charges will be for the upcoming year. So that's what I have to yes, Michael, it looks to be about 5%.
Not bad.
Yeah, well, less would be better.
True.
Yes. So, as long as it is, if it's my paycheck, more's better. But if it's my bill, less is always better. So, okay, that's all I have for HR.
Okay. I have one additional thing from our meeting. And we agreed to set up a meeting with Spring Township to see how both the borough and the township run their police service. And we're asking Chief Weaver, John Eaton, and Ralph Stewart to represent Bellefonte. And Spring Township, we understand, will be represented by their township manager, who is the former police chief and one of their township supervisors. So that's in the process of being set up.
It is. I thought we did it in finance, or I would have mentioned it. But anyway, it is in the process. I'm waiting to hear back from Spring Township.
We talked about it in finance, but we
said it was up.
We shunted it over to HR.
Okay.
Okay. Well, that's it for me.
Okay. Any other questions or for human resources? Seeing none? Safety, Randy?
Okay, thanks. So if you see under my report, there's been a request from Lewistown United Fire and Rescue Services to lease out an aerial from the Undines. The Undines had recently gotten their new aerial and took their old aerial out of service, and were holding off selling it here till the first of the year. So Lewistown found out about it, and I think contacted Chief Lure for assistance because they lost theirs. And so we're going through the paperwork, which I think there were some included in the packet. They're kind of drafts, and they'll be redone if we approve their request tonight to loan them the equipment. So I will make the motion that we do loan out the aerial apparatus to the United Fire and Rescue Service in Lewistown.
Right, Bill, who's seconding it?
I'll second it.
I heard Prendergast louder.
I've been accused of that.
So with that, our Chief Laura's with us, and I'd like to bring him on if he has comments related to this. He's been through this process before.
You're muted, Gary.
Hello.
Hello.
What do you need me to say, Randy?
Oh, whatever. I mean,
I'm all new at this. I apologize.
Not a problem.
You've talked to the folks, and we've talked, and they're very interested in getting this piece of equipment. They've been using mutual aid for a couple of weeks now. So I just thought if you had something to add to it, this is your turn.
Yeah, they're just in desire need, and we can help them out. They bought another aerial and had to go back for some major repairs. They were going to be down without giving an aerial ladder device in the borough of Lewistown, and we're in a position to help them out like we did in the past with the old engine of the Logans to some different municipalities in the past. So we just thought we'd be able to step up and help them out. They do come in and help us out on our large fires. When we utilize State College to come in to help us out at the scene, they're actually the ones that come in and give us support of fire support while we're on our big incidents, and that we don't have very often, but I'm glad we don't.
Hear, hear.
So, questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, so moved. So just get the new agreement revised for Lewistown, and then we'll come in and sign it for you. Is this something I sign or something that Gary signs? Ralph?
This would be Gary would sign the cover, Joanne, the cover letter. The agreement would probably be signed by you. Once I draft it tomorrow or Wednesday, I'll give you a call.
Okay.
Thanks,
Okay.
Gary.
Thank you. Anything else, Randy?
No, that's the end of my report.
Any questions for Randy? Seeing none, moving on to Doug for water and sanitation.
2 items real quick. Leaf collection has started in the borough. So rake your leaves out to the curb, but not onto the street. We stress that each year. The other thing is the grass collection. It stops at this time. Is that right? When do we
Not
stop
until-
picking up the
Not
cans
until the week before Thanksgiving, Doug.
for the grass collection? The week of Thanksgiving?
The Thursday before or Wednesday before the week of Thanksgiving.
Okay, so they can, residents can still set their brush cans out until then. But also leaves can be raked to the curb at this time. And the landfill at Mustard Lane is still open Saturdays until 11:45 a.m.
Landfill?
Well, recycle center. Again, I'd love for us to create a name for that facility. So if any council members come up with a good name for it, I think that would be a great thing to do.
We're calling it the compost facility.
Well, maybe we could come up with something more unique than that.
The rotting vegetation department.
I have to say, I picked some of that rotting vegetation up last Saturday, and it is excellent stuff.
Oh, I know. Mario uses it all the time.
It's really good compost.
That'll be open till the 21st of November.
Okay. The other thing is, you still can sign up for the household hazardous waste collection. That's November 20th, Friday, and the 21st. And that's at the Center County recycling site. You must pre-register, so you need to go to their website and pre-register for delivery of that materials. That's it.
Any questions?
I have just one question concerning riffraff. Do we know how that worked out for everybody? Since we did it
We will. I haven't looked at the weight slips. I heard it was a little light in the beginning compared to in the spring of the year, but I can get some exact numbers once we see the weight slips of what was turned in, what was dropped off. Now, that would not include any of the electronics,
Right,
just
right.
whatever was weighed in the truck.
Yep, thank you.
I would just
One last
add
thing.
one more thing, Doug, is the gate down at the composting site has been installed. The motor is the only thing we're waiting on. It's back ordered. So as soon as that comes in, and we complete that, then we'll be able to close out that 902 grant.
It looks really nice so far. I like it. The other thing
Okay.
is the leaf collection ends the second Friday in December typically. So that's the last date for leaf collection.
Quick question on the gate. What's the access for it now? Or will it be?
We haven't decided that. We're tossing around some ideas with that, Mike.
Okay.
We'll let you know about that.
That
The
would be
citizens definitely will have access. We just may have an alternate plan than what we use now.
Oh, you have to have an alternate plan. The key is not going to work.
Well, we may be issuing each resident a card if they give us a deposit so we can track the number of times they go in and out. We're looking at options at this time. We're trying to
Sounds
make it the
good.
most convenient for our users.
Sounds good.
Any other questions, concerns? Okay, seeing none, moving on to the streets. Deb?
In your packet is the new parking ordinance, which will take effect January 1st, 2021. I'd like council to consider a motion to advertise the newly revised and updated parking ordinance.
Before you do that, I was happy to see that we're not going to do any enforcement on a Friday.
We need a second before we can have a discussion, Tom.
Well, I thought we'd just have the discussion first.
Second the motion. Brackville.
Okay. So when
Now,
you said,
What I'm trying to say is that in section 530-53, it gives the days. It says Monday through Thursday from 8 to 8, and then Saturday from 8 to
9.
noon. Friday's not included in there. Missed Friday.
Yeah, I was confused about that.
it
Well,
should
it's
have.
because, Tom, it's because Bellefonte's open on Saturday night, and Lock Haven's open on Friday night. So there wasn't any reason to charge them on Friday night because there's nobody here.
Okay. Well, there's nobody here Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday either, so we may as well just scrub that out too.
Sounds like a typo, which is, we can correct that. It would
I'm
not-
just saying we forgot to include Friday.
We'll look it
Friday.
over, even the day, the next meeting when this is up for action, minor changes can be made. Any, typos, anything you would see then, we'll fix that.
Is it
Right.
necessary? Is it necessary to have Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays 8 to 8 as well? I mean, is it 9 o'clock in the morning? I mean, why are we having 8 to 8 on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays?
The only thing I would say, Tom, is that when we decided to change the meters, that was the time slot that was changed. So I hate to say it, but we put it on every single parking meter 8 to 8.
Yeah, I know.
Change it now.
Well, our residents and businesses aren't real happy about it. The ones that I've talked to. Now, Ralph said he's talked to some that are happy with it.
Yeah, I would clarify, I've talked to businesses that are happy with it because they understand we're trying to create turnover in our prime parking meter spaces downtown. For residents who parked on the street or were used to doing that, we would encourage them to get either a permit from into one of the lots, or look at the permit system that we're going to create where the red meters are. Both are economical, I believe, and would not have any problems like parking downtown at 5 o'clock or whatever.
I'm not personally opposed. I only bring it up because it was brought up to me by about 5 or 6 people. So I'm just speaking for them at this point.
Could I, Ralph, or Deb, actually?
Go ahead, John.
On the one thing I noticed that I thought was unique was in the permit area. There's a 1 hour grace period that's being offered. Doesn't that sort of complicate how we're going to have the parking enforcement guy coming back to double check into that area? I'm just wondering what the mechanics are of how to make that, how that's going to work out.
Deb can answer. I just want to throw in real quick. We copied the idea from a neighboring municipality, but I actually like it because it offers the availability for somebody to run into the library or the post office from these red meters, which are not far away from the downtown. They can run in very quickly, sign out a book or whatever they need to do, run to the bank very quickly. Our meter person makes rounds, so they're going to note who is there. They're going to go on their way, come back. It's chances are somebody might get more than an hour, but if the meter person comes around again and the person's still there an hour and a half, 2 hours later, they're going to get a ticket. So that's the best we can do. It's kind of it does allow us a grace period for people to run in do a quick errand in these long-term areas that are not prime parking spaces.
Okay.
I have a question about the permit system for the municipal lots, since those are a fixed fixed number of spots in each lot, do you have a maximum number of permits per lot that you issue?
That's a good question. People have asked us, whether it's council members or citizens or even the staff, with the streets committee, building and property, somebody should come up with a number, a cutoff number, and then a waiting list. We traditionally go with about a 50%, occupancy or where we issue permits. I don't think we're in trouble of going over that right now. I think the lots with the most permits is the south lot currently. And I'd have to do the math and get back to you on where we're at with the percentage. But it is something we should establish and make part of our policy.
Ralph, should we set that up and make an amendment in this ordinance before we finalize it? So we would need another streets meeting before then to do that?
I don't think it has to be part of the ordinance. It can be part of our policy that, we don't issue more than X number of permits. I don't know if there's another COVID activity or COVID goes on longer, maybe we would change the policy, but I'd rather keep it out of the ordinance and just make it a policy of how many permits we issue per lot.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I was just curious because we need to provide permitted parking for people who work in the borough, who, come into the borough and work, but we also need to be able to provide parking for visitors. So we want to encourage people to come to town and have a place to park. So we have to find a balance somehow.
And the residents, so we've got three groups of people that are.
Right.
I agree.
I would think if the 50%'s been working, you could probably stay with that till we see how this pans out.
Okay.
Reasonable.
Are there any other questions about the proposed ordinance?
Seeing none, all in favor of advertising the proposed parking ordinance, say aye.
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 All opposed? So moved. So this will be advertised and it'll come up for a vote, and at least the one amendment we need to make at the next meeting regarding the adding Friday to that one's clause.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Deb.
Yes.
I know you have other stuff. I do have a question about parking. It's just not related to the ordinance. Are we just continuing the curbside pickup kind of indefinitely until it seems like we don't need it anymore?
I would think we're going to continue that during the COVID restrictions. It seems to be working really well for the restaurants.
Right. Yeah.
And
I'm sorry, I was just going to add, I've had, our staff has asked us questions because we have 2 new meter personnel now, and some businesses have asked. I think it's a great idea. I would say as long as the restaurant capacity is down, I think now it's up to 50%, but still not great. I think we would want to try to keep that in place.
I would think we should.
I agree.
I know that it's been, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Gina.
I know that it's been received very positively by business owners, and they've been very appreciative of having that curbside pickup or that 15-minute, parking, whatever it may be in front. So
even though the capacity for restaurants is up to 50%, I think there's still a reluctance on the part of the public to go and eat in a restaurant. They're much more likely to do takeout and pickup. So if we can continue to keep those spots available for the restaurants, it helps them out.
I think everybody on council would agree with you there.
I do believe.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thanks.
Continue on, Deb.
The Wayfair signage. I didn't have any information about this particular, the Wayfair signage in Spring Township.
Well, I was just gonna, I could just fill in, Deb, basically we checked with Spring Township. They're okay with the borough making an application for placement of the one particular sign that was in Spring Township on Axeman Road as you come
Okay.
into the borough. So the next step is a check with PennDOT as to the application process. And I have an email out. As soon as I get some information, I'll share it with everybody as to what steps we have to go through. But that's just reporting back that's in the works.
So Deb, right now, there are welcome signs everywhere else where these new welcome signs are going to be placed. They are all within the borough and they've all been accepted by PennDOT. There is no welcome sign coming into Bellefonte off of Axman Road. So
Okay, great.
and there's no space to put it right past the borough line. So we had to move it back to where into Spring Township. So we had to do a two-step process. And Spring Township has now said yes. And we just need PennDOT's approval to add another stick in the ground.
Okay. Speaking of sticks in the ground, is Spring Township still on board with making the stop sign at Axeman, Mill Street, and Pine Street a full stop instead of a conditional right turn?
Same thing. Yes, they are. And then, it is being a PennDOT road, the next step is going to PennDOT with some kind of a letter requesting that a full stop be made there. And then PennDOT determines whether they'll allow it or not. But we would copy in Spring Township, and Spring said they would be supportive of our efforts. So yes, they're interested in helping with us on this.
Okay, thank you. Street trees? Are these the trees in public right-of-ways?
Great.
Yeah.
Planting is postponed until spring. If residents are interested, they need to contact the borough in obtaining a tree for right-of-way planting. Is there a fee for the trees?
Don?
Yes, Deb, the resident would pay for the tree itself, but the planting itself is free. The borough does that part. I think the last trees that we purchased, the bare root trees from Schichtel's nursery in New York, they were anywhere from I think $40 to $70 or something like that.
And is there a variety of trees available, or do you stick to specific species?
They have a variety, but we probably limit it to a few species that are good for that particular location.
Okay, so you do recommend specific trees?
Yes.
Okay.
Not the decorative pear trees.
That's what I have in front of my house. They're horrible. The Bradford pears.
Where are the trees planted, Dawn?
They're typically in the right of way. So on the streets where you see, the sidewalk and a grassy area and then the road, it's kind of like in those areas. They're
Okay.
Considered the borough right of way. It's really not owned by the property owner, but they maintain those areas, the sidewalk and the grassy area.
Okay.
But the trees themselves.
And the trees.
Yeah.
And then if there's a problem with the trees, they go to the Shade Tree Commission for consideration of removal or pruning or whatever.
So it's a regulated area.
Thank you.
Okay, that's all I've got.
Any questions for streets? Just FYI, we're still holding weekly streets committee meetings until further notice, because we got lots of stuff on streets. So that's this Thursday at noon again.
Okay, thank you.
moving on to energy and environmental conservation. Mike?
There's 3 items, and unfortunately, only familiar with the sluiceway, and then I assume you have something on the solar panels, Joanne?
So basically, you weren't at the meeting last week, correct?
I was working.
Right, okay. Between Don and I think we can do this. We met on Friday with the engineer from the Shared Energy Management Program, which is working with us on the Climate Action Plan. And he gave us several ideas as to what they could provide. And in terms of the solar panels, it was to look at doing an energy audit, figure out what's feasibly and financially possible. And once we had that information, then we could go back to that consultant to see if it fits in. John, do you want to do the rest of it? Because I don't have my notes in front of me.
Yeah, I can add a little bit, Joe. And it was the kickoff meeting. DEP hired Wilson Engineering, and we are getting this service, energy management services, with the goal of them providing us technical assistance at no cost. So essentially what came out of the meeting is that they were trying to develop some of the next steps of where to go. So they came up with a number of different possibilities. One was performing an energy audit at the wastewater treatment plant or water pump house buildings, etc. Another one was to evaluate the hydro system. Another one was to evaluate, as Joanne mentioned, the solar studies and proposals that we've had done to date. A fourth one is to do a fleet analysis looking at electrification of our fleet management. And then the fifth option would be to possibly do an energy management plan and some benchmarking. What we want to be able to go back with them is they want us to narrow this down. There was to maybe perhaps 3 different priorities. So the committee is recommending that we do the evaluation of the solar studies, the fleet analysis, and an energy management plan with benchmarking. There's one other item that the committee wanted, and that was for them to look at setting up a commission for our climate action plan. They got back to us on that and said that they really weren't in a position to do that. However, Heidi Kolka from DEP said if we contact her, she would assist us with that. So essentially what we're looking, we wanted to come back to council to see, to basically ask, the committee would like to recommend to proceed with those 3 priorities and have Wilson Engineering look at those for us.
Do we have a motion to do that?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
And Prendergast. Discussion, questions? Just for the public's use, this is a free service from DEP for us for 1 year. So we'll have this engineering firm until the end of next summer to assist us with all this. Hopefully we'll be able to have lots of answers so we can move forward with the plan and the programming by then. Anything else?
You want me to do the?
What'd you say? Go ahead, John.
You want me to do the sustainability project?
Well, we have to have a vote on this first.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we did. I'm sorry. My bad. My bad.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. That was basically the only thing we had in the committee meeting. So now you can do the sluiceway, because that was the other piece of the environment.
Yeah.
Go ahead, John.
On the with the Penn State students on their sustainability project, they've they've been sweeping up information. Don was able to provide them information on the dam geometry for the Talleyrand Dam. Previously, he had provided information on the sluiceway. And I have forwarded the information that Doug Johnson, the two contacts for the TIP program, and also PennDOT to the students. And they had actually asked previously if we had a contact for PennDOT so that they could get input from PennDOT on what PennDOT what they would like to see as far as the Route 150 Water Street repairs. So it sounds it's a good group of students. They seem to be taking in inputs from everybody and seeing what the options are. So it's encouraging to watch a young group of engineering students take hold of a project and show as much interest as they have.
So one of the hopes that we have from these students working with PennDOT is that whatever they end up presenting and proposing may get PennDOT to move the street repair up on the tip. And so kind of put those two in conjunction, so save everybody, both them and us, some funds.
Yes, yes, and ideally, if we can couple that with whatever funding that might be available from the Fish and Boat Commission, we might be able to make a number of things happen. So they're proceeding down that path of seeing what the possibilities are.
Excellent.
Questions? Seeing none, anything else for environment sustainability?
Oh, I have.
Okay, I don't have anything either. So we'll move on to the Office of Community Affairs, Zoning and Planning.
All right, we have we did receive a resignation from Mr. Chris Morelli, a Planning Commission member. So that information is in your agenda packet. We do actually have someone that's interested in filling the position. I can put that in the next packet and also check to make sure everything's posted on our web if you prefer.
Yes, I would like to put it on the web, just to offer to the community, just in case there is anybody else.
Sure.
And just for the public's notice, that particular term for that particular seat expires on December 31st of 2021. So this will only be a year and 2-month appointment.
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So under HARB, the Historical Architectural Review Board, we do recommendations from the board to council for certificates of appropriateness. We have 2 this evening. The first one is at 224 West High Street for signage. And the second one is 227 North Allegheny Street for changes to lighting, roofing material, and installation of an HVAC unit.
Do I have a motion to approve both certificates of approval?
I will make that motion.
Prendergast,
I'll second it.
Clayton.
Checking here real quick. A couple of notes.
Wait a minute, we have a motion on the floor.
Sorry. Looking at my notes here.
Any discussion of this motion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now you can talk, Ralph.
Okay, thank you. I did note on the agenda, because it came up at the HARB meeting, about some paint color changes to the side of the building of what's known as the High Street Shops at 131 West High Street. I did contact the owner of the property, let them know about the HARB process, and I did receive a response and an apology. The person did have some discussions with our previous zoning administrator about the walkway and being a private walkway. And I think there was just a misunderstanding on, you know, how the HARB process works and what's reviewable. But anyway, I fully expect the owner to have an application into the office here within a day or two, and then be on the next agenda, which is next week. So I wanted to update you on that. And then as far as nuisance codes, we, at the last council meeting, had a discussion about reports, you know, written reports on a regular basis, so that we would have a better understanding of what has been notified, or who has been notified about a code issue, being a property owner, and those whatever the status is of that incident. So we did talk, myself and Mr. Johnson talked to Mr. Rupert about a regular report, and there's no problem. We predict, or we plan to have a report by the November meeting, which will be the second meeting in November. So if you have any questions or anything, let me know, but that's the plan right now.
Any questions for any of these community affairs stuff? Okay, seeing none, moving on to special committee reports. Do we have any?
I do.
Okay, go ahead, Ben.
Just let you know, I did attend the COG Safety Committee meeting last Tuesday, 10/13. Most of the business was involved more in the center region, and wasn't really anything there for Bellefonte interest. That's it.
Okay. Any other special committees? Seeing none, move on to old business.
Couple items I'll just quickly go over. We did receive the solicitor's opinion regarding the partial ban, and that was there was discussions of council of could we ban fireworks in the historic district because of the older structures and that type of thing. The letter is there in your packet. I'm just going to summarize it. The solicitor did not think it was possible to do that as an outright ban based on the wording of the law that was passed in 2017 by the state legislators. However, if the law of 2017 is enforced because of the conditions, the 150-foot setback of an unoccupied or occupied house or structure, in virtuality, you have a ban of fireworks in the historic district. So that's what I read in the letter. It's there for your review.
At this point, Ralph, what I saw was that the current ordinance handles this issue, and that revising it in another way wouldn't really benefit it.
Correct. Now, I just clarify, it's a state law. You know, we don't really have a local ordinance, which I guess we could mirror it identically, but we follow the state law right now. I mean, that's the intent. The state passed the law, and, you know, our enforcement officers can use that effectively.
Go ahead,
Well,
Tom. Tom, you're muted.
Tom, we can't hear you.
We still can't hear you.
Thank you, Joanne. One of the other aspects of that, Ralph, is not only the 150 feet, is that on, I think, 3 or 4 of the incidents that I went to this past year, all those were commercial grade fireworks. They were not the legal fireworks. And I would probably venture to guess that 3 of those 4 incidences, there were people under the influence of some alcohol, and that's also illegal as well. So there are a number of criteria that fall within that state guideline that are being violated in the borough. And hopefully we'll be able to be a little more diligent with the police force. I don't want them chasing around fireworks people, but sometimes you really have to do it in order to get the word out that we are enforcing it.
Ralph, maybe what we can do in our next newsletter is do a presentation on what the fireworks law is, and that our police will be enforcing it, and highlight those areas that Tom just talked about. So for safety purposes, that might be helpful.
Thank you. That's an excellent idea.
That could be something that we reinforce sometime next June before the major fireworks season.
Well, we may have some fireworks on December 31st.
Yeah, we'll have some.
Right. I'm just thinking ahead to next July 4th, when it typically just
goes nuts.
Goes bang.
All good ideas. Well, I'll keep moving then.
Go for it.
Yes, please.
At the last meeting also, we mentioned that some work is being done on a anti-discrimination ordinance and a memorandum of understanding with some other municipalities. A draft of the latest edition was included or sent out today. I think maybe it was meant to be included, but it was sent out today. All we're asking you to do is review it. We'll probably list it again under old business, see if you have any questions, but we're just trying to get everybody, aware that this being looked at and considered, and then try to answer questions as they arise.
Yeah, we're still waiting on the review from Terry Williams, the State College Borough Solicitor. But because of the COVID-19 issues and what State College is dealing with, he has told us that he probably won't be getting back to us on this ordinance at the end of the year. So I think we could do something in November, but I think holding off until old business until after January might be more appropriate, because we're not going to have any more information than what you already have in your packet until after he gets back to us.
Okay. All righty. So is there, again, in the meantime, if you have questions, myself or really Joanne setting it up, but I'm happy to forward or direct or whatever, facilitate. So just let me know. The next item is just a note that, as you recall, the county has a liquid fuels grant program, an application process and deadline. Dawn submitted an application for funds that would go towards our streetscape project over on South Spring and West Bishop Street. So I wanted to thank Dawn for that and just let you know that's been taken care of. The next item is when we rescheduled Trick or Treat Night, which is October 29th, 6 to 8, just a while ago, when we learned that the other municipalities around us, for the most part, are doing the same thing, we said we would revisit this on the meeting of the 19th, just in case, the COVID cases increased or whatever. But I'm just checking in. Are we good to go to say, barring some blizzard or something, our intent is to have trick or treat on the 29th. As
far as I know.
Yes.
I have a couple of questions. It's only the things I've read in the news, and I don't know how much this involves. I know that there were 2 cases in the schools here in town that they had to shut down a week ago for a couple of days because of positive cases of COVID in the schools. I also heard this afternoon that the hospital is at 80% capacity right now. And my question is, how might that affect us on our decision? I don't know where to go on this. That's why
let me just throw in this tidbit, and then I'll, when, it was only, I think, our last meeting when we said we go to the 29th, and we brought it up just even as a more recent discussion. We did add the note about your porch light means you're interested, you're participating. The whole thing is voluntary, whether you send your kids out or go with them or not do it at all. It's totally voluntary. The center region municipalities and Spring Township all around us have a nice, verbiage that says the exact same thing. Basically, everybody that's staying on the 29th or even doing it will have that same verbiage. It's voluntary. If you don't want anybody on your porch, turn your light off. If you don't want to go, you don't have to. It's a voluntary program.
Sounds good.
All righty.
I'm a little leery of it. I just hope people are careful and understand the risk involved in going to, different people's homes. I can see if it's family, because I think you'll see that there's still a lot of family that can still get together, and I see less risk there than I do with kids going to doors and how the candy and all that's handled. We can't control that, so hopefully everybody can make up their own minds how they want to do it. But I agree with the porch light idea.
That's my go-to also.
That's something I'd recommend, but I'm not going to stop somebody else from doing it.
Okay. Any other comments?
I think the 29th ago.
Okay.
All right. I'll take that as, keep going on the same path. The last item I have is, we've talked off and on in old business about a stormwater runoff issue that starts on Zion Road and ends up along Parkwood Drive in behind the townhouses and in behind Pine Circle, which joins Parkwood Drive. Anyway, the residents have told us the problem became very bad or got much worse after the turning lane was installed on Zion Road or State Route 550. So I've documented through their maps and whatnot. As you know, I reported back that I'd asked for copies of their maps, and I did get copies. I did look at them. The drainage does tie into this big pipe that comes out to the same area we're talking about from the Zion Road area. So we have set up a meeting for Tuesday, October 27th at 2 p.m. on site. And I'll have PennDOT representatives there, somebody from Senator Corman's office, somebody from Representative Benninghoff's office. I've tried to let the residents know, a couple of them that have been in touch with me pretty much off and on every year when there's problems there. Let them know that we're setting up this meeting and they're welcome to, come over and hear what's being said. But the Streets Committee or whoever is welcome. I mentioned I would keep you informed. You're welcome to be there. I would like to try to do it on site if at all possible to help people get a feel for what's happening and see the pipe that we're talking about and what's happening. So that's the plan right now.
So when you say
Where
on
would we
site,
meet at?
where is on site? What's the location you're talking about? Because it could be Parkview, it could be Zion Road. Where are you talking about?
I am talking about, thank you for helping me clarify that, because I said the parking lot of the townhouses, and of course the townhouses are off of Parkwood Drive.
Okay.
So that's the best area to see the drainage pipe and the problem that the neighbors are upset about. So that's why I chose that location.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. So I'll try to, maybe Monday of next week, shoot out an email reminding everyone, but Tuesday the 27th at 2 p.m. on site. I think that's all I have under old business.
Does anybody else have any old business? Seeing none, go to new business.
New business, we just wanted to let you know that with the community development block grant funding, you know, there's audits that go along with that. You don't often hear about it, but it's behind the scenes work. Again, I want to commend Dawn for going through and working with the auditor and going back and forth with the documents that were requested for review. It's been completed. I don't think there was any problems, but it takes a lot of time, you know, that nobody sees. So I wanted to thank Dawn for doing that and let you know it's been done.
Good work, Don.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
So, I think that's all I had. I know early on, everybody talked about the gas leak. I just had in my notes, I know the mayor started to thank everybody and so did Chief Weaver. I hope we didn't forget anybody, but I really want to say I was very impressed with all the first responders' response. I mean, they were there in a matter of seconds when the call went out that there was a gas line rupture. So it was very impressive, very professional. You know, sometimes there are glitches and there are things that should be reviewed, but I will say overall, it was a very professional response, outstanding response. And I will be sending some thank you letters out to all the agencies I'm aware of. But we'll try our best to capture everybody and get a thank you letter out to everyone.
Ralph, I'd also like to thank you for your response as our media contact person for this. I did see you on the TV, and I think you did a really good job. And I think that we followed the NIMS requirements for having a designated person to handle these kinds of media things. And I think Ralph did a very good job. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I was the
Well done.
last person standing there, basically.
The one they collared.
Yes.
Hey, Dawn outran you?
Yes.
So,
Which doesn't say much for me.
okay.
Oh,
Do we have any other new business? Seeing none, any further public comment, or whether from you or from someone a council member has heard from that would like to have it presented? Okay, seeing none, I do have a movement to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
Brackville and
Pendergrass.
Pendergrass, okay.
Loud one.
What is,
Okay, seeing no objection, we are
Let's go that, Tom.
adjourned at 9:35 p.m. and we'll now move into an executive session for legal costs after.
On.